Now at 5, Missouri American Water wants to build a reservoir in Newton County, but a new study says it could be disastrous for the area.
President Biden hits the road to promote his newly passed bipartisan infrastructure law. I'm Deborah Alfarone at the White House with the uphill battle he's facing on passing the rest of his legislative agenda.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
An independent study suggests a proposed reservoir site in Newton County is not suitable. This is KOAM News at 5. Now, in 2019, Missouri American Water announced they had selected a site in Newton County for a proposed reservoir. MAW hired engineering firms to conduct studies of the site, which are still ongoing. But so far, those studies have determined the site would be suitable for the reservoir. This year, a resident who owns property where the reservoir would be built hired the Ozark Underground Laboratory to conduct an independent study of the site. One of the biggest problems they found concerns leakage at the site.
If you're going to store water, you don't store it in a leaky bucket. This is a leaky bucket. There are not actions that they anticipate taking or have evaluated that would plug up the leakage.
Tonight at 6, we're going to hear Missouri American Water's thoughts on the study and the reason behind the proposed reservoir. Missouri Southern students got a look at a new housing option on campus. The school hosted an open house for the new Lion Village. The 4-story, 94,000 square foot complex can house more than 300 students. Private rooms, 2-bedroom units, and 4-bedroom suites are all available. The suites include a kitchen and living room.
Having a modern facility that attracts students want to live on campus was a key priority, because one thing was we have a fairly small on-campus population. We want to expand that because our studies show that students who live on campus are more successful as far as retaining and graduating. So that was some big key reasons for it.
The first students to live in the Lion Village moved in September. Beautiful weather out there. Doug Heddy.
Yeah, fantastic day for us today. Upper 70s for highs, pushing 80 degrees, which is kind of crazy for the middle of November, but just a great day. We do have some mid and upper level clouds, which are starting to increase, and this is going to be the trend as we go through the evening into the overnight hours. You can see a lot of clouds out to the west. That is the beginnings of our next storm system, which will start to affect us by the time we head into the daytime hours tomorrow. Look at the temps. It's after 5 o'clock. We're still sitting low to mid 70s across the region. Southerly winds really helped our temperatures warm up for us today. Those south winds kind of 15 to 25. And then we've had gusts, which have been quite a bit higher than that, kind of 25 upwards of 30 miles per hour. Through the evening hours, slow drop through the 70s, 60s, only down into lower 60s for us tonight. Big changes moving in tomorrow. We'll talk about that here in a bit.
See you then. The National Guard is standing by as the jury deliberates in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. In 2 weeks of testimony, jurors were given starkly different portrayals of his actions the night he shot 3 men on the streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin. Prosecutors say Rittenhouse was a wannabe soldier who provoked a confrontation, while the defense says he feared for his life and acted in self-defense after being ambushed by a, quote, crazy person. Watch for live updates on this story on the KOAM News app. President Biden visited a small town in New Hampshire to highlight how the bipartisan infrastructure law will help fix aging bridges and roads. The newly signed law is a major win for his administration as the president faces sagging approval ratings. Reporter Deborah Alfarone has more from the White House.
President Biden went to Woodstock, New Hampshire to tout the $1.2 trillion physical infrastructure package 1 day after he signed it into law.
We can work together. We can deliver real results.
The president used an 82-year-old bridge over the Pemigewasset River that's considered to be in poor condition to highlight the more than $1 billion the state will get to fix its roads and bridges.
Right now, there are 215 bridges in your state. 215 bridges deemed structurally unsafe.
Wednesday, the president will travel to Detroit, Michigan to promote his policies directly to the American people, despite lagging poll numbers and rising inflation. The White House argues the president's nearly $2 trillion social spending and climate bill, named the Build Back Better Act, will help ease inflation, but Republicans oppose it.
There's no part of our economy that can afford another massive dose of socialism.
The country's awash in federal dollars.
Some moderate Democrats, such as West Virginia's Joe Manchin, have also raised concerns over inflation as they await the bill's cost estimates this week from the Congressional Budget Office.
We've seen the language from the House about what they would like to do, but then the score is going to justify whether that's doable or not.
This week we will vote on the bill to build back better.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi joined demonstrators outside the Capitol as they called on Congress to pass the legislation. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Washington.
House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer today told reporters he expects the House vote on the Build Back Better Act to take place sometime between Thursday and Saturday of this week. Meanwhile, House Democrats are also planning events in their states throughout the end of the year to help sell the components of the physical infrastructure law. 7 astronauts aboard the International Space Station, 4 Americans, 2 Russians, 1 German, are on high alert because of more than 1,500 pieces of new space debris. The U.S. government says the space junk was created when Russia destroyed one of its own satellites with a missile. Even a small fragment of debris could cause devastating damage to the station. State Department spokesperson slammed the Russian test, calling it reckless and dangerous. Coming up in Health Watch, COVID-19 is spreading through some nursing homes again.
A deadly COVID-19 outbreak hits a Connecticut nursing home. I'm Elise Preston with the breakthrough cases at the facility and how some cities and states are ramping up booster shots.
And later, the president's infrastructure law calls for new safety standards for seat backs in vehicles. Topping today's Health Watch, Pfizer is asking the FDA for emergency use authorization for its experimental antiviral pill to treat COVID-19. In a clinical trial, the pill showed an 89% reduction in the risk of hospitalizations or death in patients with mild to moderate COVID-19. The results are from an interim analysis done before the trial was actually scheduled to end. The new pill, called Paxlovid, also has to be administered alongside an older antiviral within the first 3 days of COVID symptoms to be effective. A large nationwide study finds COVID-19 patients who are prescribed SSRI antidepressants are significantly less likely to die of coronavirus than patients not treated with SSRI drugs. California researchers say the results add to evidence indicating the antidepressants, particularly fluoxetine, may have beneficial effects against the worst symptoms of COVID. The COVID-19 outbreak inside a Connecticut nursing home has led to the deaths of 8 residents. A total of 89 residents and employees tested positive for the virus, and all but 2 were vaccinated. Elise Preston reports.
COVID-19 swept through Gear Village Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in North Canaan, Connecticut, taking the lives of 8 residents over the last 6 weeks. Nursing home officials say 89 residents and employees tested positive for the virus, and all but 2 were vaccinated.
We were really proud of the fact that our employees stepped up. They took the vaccine, accepted it. All of our residents did early on. We thought we were ahead of this.
Nursing home officials say the residents who died had serious underlying health issues. They suspect an asymptomatic employee brought in the virus despite regular COVID testing. But they believe the biggest factor was waning vaccination effectiveness for residents who got their shots months ago.
I think it speaks to the importance of getting the vaccine, and then when you're eligible, getting the booster.
Administrator Kevin O'Connell says it's a cautionary tale. The facility was in the process of scheduling booster shots when the infection started.
Booster shots are now available to any eligible adult here in New York City. That's also the case in California, Colorado, and New Mexico, actions that defy current CDC guidance. But those local and state officials say their citizens are at high risk.
At the same time, other states are trying to find ways to get around federal vaccine rules. Idaho's legislature reconvened weeks before its regularly scheduled session, and lawmakers introduced about 3 dozen bills dealing with COVID-19 vaccine and mask mandates. In Texas, the Attorney General has filed a motion for a temporary restraining order against federal vaccine requirements. And South Carolina's Attorney General filed a suit to stop vaccine requirements for healthcare workers. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
Oklahoma is one of several states joining the South Carolina suit. A UK study finds dyslexia affects more than a child's reading skills. Researchers say children with dyslexia are slower to process visual information generally and make decisions about it. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, energy officials testified before the Senate about rising energy prices.
Plus, we have some rain chances rolling in for us tomorrow. We're going to look at that coming up. Very mild Tuesday for us today. Temperatures all the way up into the upper 70s. Very windy. Those strong southerly winds really helping our temps warm up. Enjoy it, because we're going to have changes moving in over the next few days. But looking outside right now, it looks pretty good. We're anywhere from 70 in Iola, 71 in Independence, 70 in Miami, 73 in Pittsburgh. We have Lamar at 73. We have 70 in Anderson. So everybody really shaping up pretty good across the entire four-state area. Look at the winds. Pretty strong southerly winds at about 15 to 20 miles per hour, but we've had gusts a little bit higher than that. Most of us have been getting wind gusts kind of in that 30 upwards to 35 mile per hour range. So it's pretty windy. It's going to stay windy as we go through the overnight hours tonight and then again into the daytime hours tomorrow. Of course, it's getting dark. It gets dark early, 5:15. We have those mid and upper level clouds which have been rolling in. 73 south winds at 16. Humidity is at about 55%. For the evening hours, we're going to slide back through the 70s, 60s, but we're going to mainly bottom out into lower 60s. So it's going to be a mild overnight before we get a cold front that's going to slide in for us tomorrow. Look at the clouds starting to increase. Nothing underneath the clouds. So we are going to stay dry through the evening into the overnight hours. But here's the beginnings of our next storm system. It doesn't actually have that much energy, and it's mainly across the northern parts of the plains. It doesn't really have much moisture at all. So the showers we're going to get from this system, it's not going to be much, just some very scattered light little showers as we go into the daytime hours tomorrow. All right, let's break it down. Clouds continue to thicken tonight. Look at our temps. We stay into the 60s. Those southerly winds keeping our temperatures up. Here's 5:30 in the morning. See these little showers? See this wind shift line moving into our northwestern counties? That's our cold front as it slides south. So here's 8:30. Much colder temperatures behind it, still the 60s ahead of it, and light showers developing and continuing to push through. So the front's going to be through the metro by about 11 a.m. So in the morning we'll be into the 60s. Behind it we're going to drop through the 50s, still some light showers, and then eventually into the 40s tomorrow evening. So it's going to be much colder this time tomorrow. 60 in the morning, 64 by noon, dropping back to about 50 by about 3 p.m. And again, we're going to have those light showers. This will all clear out as we go through the evening hours tomorrow. We'll still have some showers kind of sticking around as we go into the evening, and then most of this will start to roll out by the time we head into tomorrow evening. Then it's going to be actually fairly cold as we go into tomorrow night as the clouds start to break up, and we'll drop back near freezing. And then on Thursday, we're going to have the sunshine returning, but look at our highs, only into the upper 50 or upper 40s during the afternoon, so quite a bit cooler. 67 will be the high. That's a morning high. Only 50 on Thursday, 55 on Friday. The weekend in general looks pretty good. A few showers on Sunday. And then most of the next week looks pretty good, of course. It's Thanksgiving, so let's look down the road. Some showers on Wednesday, Thanksgiving and Black Friday, not bad. A little chilly, highs into lower 50s.
At the moment, people better get out and enjoy these last few minutes of daylight today.
Exactly. Quite a bit cooler.
Thanks, Doug. Coming up, new safety standards for vehicle seats. First, though, we honor a local veteran. Lionel Woods served in the U.S. Air Force during the Korean and Vietnam Wars. The Pittsburgh native was stationed in Korea and in Vietnam, and we salute Master Sergeant Lionel Woods, a four-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, rising gasoline prices are forcing some families to rethink holiday travel plans ahead of Thanksgiving. Drivers in every state are paying more at the pump, with the current national average more than $3.41 per gallon. The issue is getting attention on Capitol Hill, where senators held a hearing about why energy prices are rising across the board.
The biggest swing in price is just simply the demand came back quicker than production, so that's really driven up the price substantially. Analysts say production is expected to lag behind demand for the next year, meaning the higher prices could be here to stay for a while. President Biden's massive infrastructure law includes a landmark car safety measure that was prompted by a 6-year CBS News investigation. A federal safety standard dating back to 1967 leaves vehicle front seats susceptible to collapse in rear-end crashes. In response, lawmakers passed legislation aimed at addressing that issue within 2 years. Chris Van Cleve reports.
16-month-old Taylor Warner had just started walking when a ride in the family minivan turned deadly.
I've always thought of trying to justify why did Tay die. I don't want her to die in vain.
The Warners were rear-ended. The force of the crash caused her father Andy's seat to collapse backwards, colliding with Taylor, who is strapped in her car seat. The newly signed infrastructure bill mandates change inspired by the tragedy that befell the Warners and dozens of other families identified by CBS News.
When we spoke to you in 2015, we hadn't really known where this was going to go. Just thinking every day I'd get in the car, what if this happens again? What if we lose another child until this can change?
We found crash test after crash test after crash test, showing what can happen when a seat collapses. But every single seat met or exceeded the half-century-old federal strength standard. So does a banquet chair.
200.
In the early 90s, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's own researchers warned the agency about seatback collapses, citing examples of major or fatal injuries. In response to our reporting, Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey introduced legislation to fix the problem. Regulators now have 2 years to draft a new strength standard pending approval by the Secretary of Transportation.
CBS and the families put the spotlight on this critical issue. Now it's time for NHTSA to respond.
Happy birthday!
As Andy and Liz Warner remember Taylor 11 years later, they're now finding a moment of peace amid their heartbreak.
We still miss her every day, but that we know that her life meant something. We love her and we're very proud of her and thank her for what she's doing to help others in the future.
NHTSA says safety is its top priority and it will work to meet its congressional mandates. Safety experts tell us the back seat is still the safest place for children and to consider putting a child behind the passenger seat if it's empty or perhaps in the middle of the back seat if both front seats are in use. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Washington.
Millions of TikTok users may be entitled to money from a class action lawsuit. The suit says the platform collected children's personal information like location, phone numbers, and biometric data without sufficient notification or consent. If the settlement is approved, the total payout is expected to be $92 million to be split among affected parties. Amazon has agreed to pay $500,000 for failing to notify its California employees about new COVID cases. The company also agreed to improve the way it tracks cases and alerts workers and local health officials. California's Attorney General said the action comes after Amazon failed to adequately notify its workers, often leaving them unable to effectively track the spread of the virus. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, concerns from U.S. officials over China's military buildup. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to hear from Missouri American Water on its proposed reservoir project. Plus, MoDOT says it plans to build a bridge over a Joplin train track and a groundbreaking ceremony for a new trail at the future Duquesne Memorial Park. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. I know the sun's getting kind of low in the sky, but right now the temperature is near perfect for an evening walk.
Yeah, sun's gone. So unfortunately, but
you need street lights for that.
I know
walk.
it gets dark so fast now, but temperatures are still great. We're sitting into lower 70s. We're only going to bottom out into lower 60s later on tonight. We're going to have a morning high, so probably at about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning is 67, but we'll drop into the 40s by this time tomorrow evening with some light on and off showers.
Thanks for joining us again. The CBS Evening News is next, and of course we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. See you then. Let's make it a great evening.